This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Izzy, you and I have been trying to put together a documentary here for a while about some of the athletes in sports who have had to overcome the obstacles that are all over the place, even today, for gay athletes. And Billy Beane is at the forefront in baseball of trying to make baseball trying to make baseball a safer space, a more enlightened space for some of the caveman views that have strangled us for a while in and outside of sports. What is it that we're putting together here to honor Billy Beane now that he is past at 60 years old, as somebody who probably did more work here in baseball than just about anybody?
Yeah, Dan, I had a pretty rough day yesterday when I found out that Billy had passed. And one of the things that after my divorce, I just really wanted to just help more people, I guess, with the difficulties of being, LGBTQ in sports and just sort of tell stories and spread messages and whatnot. And one of the people who was super influential to me growing up was Billy Beane. When I was in college, effectively my senior year, he was coming out publicly. And it was the first time I'd ever seen or felt that from somebody, in sports, somebody that I didn't know Billy Beane at the time, but I immediately looked up to him for what he had done. And I would say I'm 47. I kind of have a career regret already. I have my biggest career regret is that this documentary that you helped me begin, hasn't really gotten off the ground yet, because I've got hundreds, hours and hours of just great content. And this was one of them, my interview with Billy Beane. And I had never spoken to Billy before. I'd never told him, that he was somebody that I admired so much. And I had about an hour plus conversation with him as part of this documentary. And it was mind blowing to hear Billy. And what you're going to hear is just a 9-minute segment, a couple of things pieced together of him just telling different elements of his story. And I think, Dan, the part that just gets me the most is when you hear him, you'll still hear pain and regret and guilt for not allowing others in, for not allowing others to recognize who he is, for not trusting those other people with this bit of information that didn't allow him to be the person that he could fully be. He still felt that. And in a way, it's how he played his career. It's how he was closeted, just held back. He just wanted to keep other people happy. And I just connect with that so much. And there's a couple of things you're going to need to know before we get to this interview. One of them was he was married to a woman. And I had asked him within the context of the conversation, was that a selfish move, in your opinion? Is that something that you were not worried about your wife's feelings so much as you worried about yours? And so the question isn't there, so that's why I'm saying you need to know that. And then there's where this interview starts, which is just at a heartbreaking place. He was obviously closeted when he was playing. He had a partner for some time. Nobody knew about him and his partner. His partner had HIV at the time, effectively a death sentence, I want to say in the early 90s. He was with this partner in a hospital, watched him die. Walked out of the hospital, couldn't call anybody because nobody knew they were together. And that story in itself was just so heartbreaking. And the idea, some of the concepts that he throws out at you during this interview is just like putting yourself in his shoes. It's just a difficult thing to do if you've never been there. And if you have been there, to hear this guy talk about what he went through and, probably until his dying day feeling guilt about not being able to be the person he is, it's a lot to handle. And I was just heartbroken that he passed. And he passed in a way, I didn't know he had leukemia. It was like that. It was over a year. And it was very much the way he lived, just kind of in the background, not really wanting to be in everybody's face. And he will forever just be a hero to me.
Let's play that.
And I walked out of there at 7 a.m. with a plastic bag full of his clothes. And I got my car and I had to be at the park at 10 a.m. to go play a 1 o'clock game with the California Angels.
How did you grieve?
I just couldn't deal with it. and I didn't know who to call or what to say. I had never introduced him to any person that I knew. I called his sister. It was the only person that really knew about us. He was a twin. And that was, and I basically said, I can't talk right now. I have to go, and, a million questions. And, she didn't even know that he was HIV positive, just the denial, the layers of lies and how complicated your life becomes when you can't live transparently. And it's just so hard to relive, that moment. And I wish that I could have said a few things to him before he left. And, those days will never come back, I think when I was alone and in the dark, I felt super sorry for myself. And then I started to resent baseball. And then I thought, I just can't imagine what would happen if somebody found out about me. And I just, without talking to my parents or my brother or Brad Osmus, my roommate, who's giving me a hard time about that choice all the time. Like, how could you not believe that we would care about you? I just thought it'd be better if I just skipped out. And, I just saw Trevor and Bochy at the winter meetings and, grabbed a meal with Brad and we laugh, but then I think when I'm in the mix, there's a sense of disappointment. And those guys have had, 2 Hall of Fame careers, and a guy's a manager in the big leagues after playing 18 years. Those are great success stories, and I'm so happy for them. And I just wonder, what if I wouldn't have given up on myself, what I might have been able to accomplish. And those relationships, Israel, were so important to me that I was afraid to test what they would be like if someone knew all about me. And I know that you can relate to that. And maybe part of my life journey allowed someone like you to not wait till it was too late. And how many people you touch in this world with your message, with your voice, and with what you're passionate about, and it fills me with joy. Maybe it was selfish. I've met, when my story came out, and all of a sudden, people were interested in who I was. I met so many people that were in their 60s that had grown children and had known that they were gay from the age of 10 or 15. And if I'd had 1 or 2 conversations with someone in our community, I would not have gotten married. But I never had that conversation. I thought the only value I have is to be like everybody else. People that you loved and meant so much to you growing up were the same as mine. And what their value system, I owned that, and I wanted that for me, and I didn't believe that I deserved the same. So
you were actually my influence, Billy. Like I was leaving high school when you came out, and I was going to college, and I was going away on my own for the first time, and I was going to this scary place where I knew I was going to be at parties, and I knew I was going to be at these places with all these guys, and I was like, man, there's somebody who's done this. And like, you were the first person. And I was like, wow, that's entirely different. And so I just kind of packed it away. And I think as I kept going, your name is always just a source of just light and just an ability. And I didn't even know any of your details, obviously, before that. Sorry about this. And so leads me to my question about role models and the need for visibility, and not saying, hey, pulling these guys out of the closet.
It's unbelievable that I have been watching you on television for 10 years and not know what you just, said, because I felt invisible and like I let a lot of people down. If I would have had any kind of conversation, going through school or something, even if it just kept me in a place where I was clear about who I am, I would have not hurt so many people by trying to please everybody. There's not enough days in the rest of my life, that are going to allow me to let go of some of those times. And I feel like I've said yes to every single request since I've been here, and I'm not tired yet, because I had a lot of frustration pent up for a long time, and I'm super grateful to be in a position to keep the conversation going. I was comfortable, even though I was so sad. I was comfortable with the way I was viewed by people from the outside. If there's anything I can tell people, is that once you do shine a light on your life and you just stop lying about things, the quality and the depth of your relationships, your friendships, I was so guarded with my partner when he was alive, and he was way better to me than I was to him. And I wish I could tell him thank you, and my brother, wanted to live with me when I was playing for the Padres, and he was in San Diego State, and for 3 years I told him no, like he felt like I didn't love him. And I hate that so much, when people wonder, like, why is it so important, that they just, I wish they could just feel for a day what it's like to deny everything that matters to you, and in hopes that people will like you. And then what's the hard part is you end up really pushing away. Like, I can tell how much you love your sisters, and that you lost some time with them, and they missed out on some amazing moments, and that you could have enriched their life with your life experience, and now hopefully you've made up for lost time. But that exact feeling of, like, I thought I was everything for you, and by our choices, it's saying otherwise. But in reality, they are, and you didn't want to alter the way that they felt about you. And so it sounds a little complicated, but
it's a lot complicated.
Izzy, don't worry. Amin is in his phone because he's busy researching topics so that he can help us later in the show. This Billy Beane conversation that you had illuminates for me that at the end of his life, small soothing though it may be, he ended up in a place where he was actually able to live his passions more freely. He got a great deal of identity late in life from the work he was doing for Major League Baseball, in Major League Baseball, to be supportive of inspiration that people needed.
I hope so. I hope he got that feeling. I don't think there's necessarily that feeling of fulfillment because, I think he said there, I know he was talking personally. He said, I don't think I'll live enough to make up for some of the things that he regrets. But I also think that he probably wanted to see more people out. I would think he wanted to see more a different, sports scene than he saw when he played. And it's pretty similar now. But I think the message that I hear the loudest is just that, like the idea that he felt invisible. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you made the major leagues for one, and you did it hiding this great secret, this big secret, and then when you come out, like, he changed my life, but you feel invisible. Like, that's how powerful this sort of overreaching, overriding, like, just feeling of doom is, because you're just like, well, nobody's gonna like me. And it was just so relatable to hear. And I'm not crying because of that. I'm crying because he passed away, and it's just so sad that he didn't get to do even more, that he was only 60 years old.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of your relationship and in that footage, and I'm sorry that you went through that loss. It seems as though, like, even though I don't know how deep your relationship went beyond that bit of content, but it seems as though you guys struck up quite the connection in that moment. So I'm sorry for your loss, Izzy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was like we were only supposed to talk for 20 minutes. I think we ended up talking for like 70 minutes, and we both cried a little bit, as you could see. But I think that idea of the way he said it at the end there, giving up everything you believe in just so other people would like you. Like, that's basically what that's like, especially when you're in an environment like sports where you just think the worst of everybody around you in terms of this, right?